In 1996 at Talladega, when leading the race, Dale Earnhardt Sr. had one of the worst crashes he ever had in his entire career. Earnhardt was leading when he got tagged into the outside wall, hitting his car head-on into the wall and almost flipping over and then getting hit on his roof. Earnhardt was able to walk away from this accident, but he suffered a broken collarbone and multiple other injuries. He even tried to race the following week in Indianapolis, but was unable to do so. He then qualified on the pole just 2 weeks later. This just proves that he was as tough as nails.
Oh, I'm telling you. Oh, hang on, Jeff Burton. Burton up into Hornish.
He's going to come back up
and now the big one.
There it is.
7, 8, 9 cars involved, many which were running inside the top 10.
And that's the whole field, isn't it?
That's the whole field.
And look at that. Nowhere to go.
And these guys were trying to avoid the two coming back up on the racetrack, and the first group that saw them check up, and everybody runs in behind them. That is massive right there. That's incredible.
He just goes diving down here after he gets clobbered by the 31. On the 83, okay, this started already behind, but the 83 got turned.
But they see that going on in front of them, and they're all jockeying for position to avoid that. And it's that chain reaction accident. You know what I mean? Look at the cars, man.
There's a lot of cars in that accident.
Menard did a great job. He got up on the high side and kind of got around them. But these guys,
all these cars have damage here.
You see the first group when you don't pay attention to what the two cars doing. Watch everybody behind them, because this is where the wreck.
Well, see what happened. The 83 checked up, the 12 checked up, and it looked like Montoya got into the back of somebody. And but there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, it's just like you said, it's a chain reaction.
In 2010, when battling for the win, Jeff Burton got loose and hit Sam Hornish Jr., sending Kurt Busch down the track. As the camera focused on Busch, what we didn't expect to see behind him was a massive crash that would involve over half the field that was still remaining in this race. This was the night race in 2010 at Daytona, and it was already chaotic enough. To have this crash at the end of the race was just wild. Ultimately, this race had to be red flagged for the cleanup for the race to continue.
Gordon, but look on the high side. Oh, Gordon comes up.
Oh, he got Kenson. Oh, and there goes Jeff. Jeff's in the inside wall, hard into the wall.
Caution will wave. Caution will wave. The field is frozen. We'll be coming back to 4 to go.
That was, and he almost got clipped again.
And you're right, Darrell. Jeff's car just pushes up, won't hold the bottom of the racetrack.
Couldn't hold it down. And this thing goes in here, and it hits an opening. That's why it knocked. That's what happened.
Oh, my God.
It hit that opening, and it just ripped the front end off of it.
There's no safer barrier there.
I think Jeff just shoves up right there, gets into him ever so slightly. And look at Greg Biffle slide by, but that inside lick on the inside wall is what tore Jeff's car all to pieces.
This was by far Jeff Gordon's biggest hit of his career, in my opinion. The entire engine would fall out of his race car after he spun off at turn number 2 with Matt Kenseth. Gordon's car would head right at the inside wall and hit in one of the worst ways possible, at the wall that was sticking out. Gordon's car would come ricocheting back across the racetrack, but even worse, the engine was still sliding when he came to a stop. There was apparently footage of his in-car camera, but NASCAR has since destroyed it, as Gordon didn't want the public to see it.
Ernie Irvan, Ricky Rudd, Kyle Petty, Earnhardt, the front 4, as they continue to try to sort this race out.
Caution.
Yellow is back on the track. We got a major crash through the tri-oval. Car on fire coming to the line right here in front of us. It's Ted Musgrave's car, front and rear. And Bonnet's car is also involved in the incident.
Wow, his car got upside down.
Into the catch fence went the Neil Bonnet, car number 31. From inside of Bonnet's car.
All right.
Neil Bonnet, okay.
Jimmy Spencer is second. They come through the tri-oval. Checkered is waving. Ernie Irvan wins, and Rusty spins and gets airborne and flips wildly right at the start-finish line. Very reminiscent of his accident at Daytona.
Oh, man. That is too bad. Come on, brother. Let's see.
What a way.
Yeah, he's moving. I see him moving around in the car. Rusty, and go right out the picture, and it looks, there he is. Earnhardt right up on the back bumper of Rusty, and he does touch him. And around he goes, and that's one reason that Dale Earnhardt went down there.
That's why he was so concerned, because he touched Rusty Wallace to start this situation, it looks like.
And the car overturns about 6 or 7 times, pirouetting on its nose, end over end, side over side, comes to a rest on its wheels between the start-finish line and turn 1.
The 90s saw some very vicious crashes in NASCAR, some that I am very surprised drivers could walk away from. And Rusty Wallace had that exact crash at Talladega after Dale Earnhardt hooked him out of the tri-oval. Wallace's car would go flipping across the racetrack and barrel rolling into the grass. Thankfully, Wallace was okay, but this was one of the worst accidents I've ever seen that Rusty Wallace ever took. Dale Earnhardt Sr. was actually one of the first people to Rusty Wallace's car after the accident. He wanted to offer his friend a helping hand.
Crash over in turn 2. Michael Waltrip has hit the wall hard. The car is upside down, and you can see the car is really torn up. Well, Jerry, I said it's sort of on its side, or boy, yes, it is upside down.
They're fixing up that gate where Michael hit over there. Let's take a look one more time and give that Kool-Aid man on the hood of that Pontiac a wild ride. Now, just coming out of turn 2, that's the crossover gate, and Michael hits the juncture of the gate and the concrete wall that begins the back straightaway. The car is literally sawed open, and you see the steering wheel now sticking out to the left side of the car. And this is what's left of Michael Waltrip's Kool-Aid Country Time Pontiac.
Michael Waltrip had one of the scariest crashes at Bristol. He came off of the turn and slid up across the racetrack. When he did that, he ended up hitting the wall, but instead of a wall, he hit a guardrail. And this would basically pierce his race car and making nothing left standing except the seat and the roll bar. Michael Waltrip, after this crash, in my opinion, from seeing this, is one of the toughest drivers out there. Because after this accident, he went and did an interview right after this when he was on the golf cart heading to the infield care center. He is tough.
And she's all right after a hard crash, and the caution flag is out.
The race is over. That's Tony Stewart will win the race. I'm so glad that all these racetracks have put safer barriers where we never had them before, and here's a perfect example of why we need them everywhere.
Almirola.
Yeah, right there. He got on the bumper of it. Looked like McMurray's car, the one, turned him a little bit to the left. Thank God for safer barriers.
That was a hard lick. It's almost that car didn't even look like it slowed down as it was going across there.
She may have not won a whole lot of races or done anything great in NASCAR, but Danica Patrick was by far one of the toughest drivers out there. She was physically tough. The amount of hits that she took in some awkward and horrible wall positions were unbelievable. Danica Patrick, in her first ever Cup race, ended up wrecking out in the duel. And this was by far one of the biggest impacts she probably took in her entire NASCAR career, and it started off big. Patrick's car would get loose off the exit of turn number 2 and get spinning into the inside wall. The impact was enormous. Thankfully, Patrick was okay, but it was probably a wake-up call that these were the hits that she was going to take at restrictor plate racing.
Michael Waltrip in the 55 into the picture, pushed by Casey Mears. Kenseth with Harvick behind him. Oh, there's contact. Stewart into the middle of the pack and over.
Fortune's out.
And a huge wreck to end this race. Matt Kenseth is going to get to the finish line first. Well, here it is. Waltrip in the 55, Mears in the 13, Stewart in the 14.
You can see Tony just a little bit late in making that move to get back down. Harvick and Kenseth on the outside had a run, so they were literally going to go by him on both sides.
Watch the two. The championship leader somehow avoided getting really torn up in that.
If you've ever wanted to talk about an iconic crash, there's none more iconic than the 2012 Talladega Fall Race. On the final lap, Tony Stewart led Matt Kenseth around the track, but out of nowhere, Michael Waltrip came with a massive run. Tony Stewart went to throw a very late block and ended up spinning himself out, as well as about 30 other drivers in this crash. Tony Stewart would go on his side and almost flip over. This was one of the biggest crashes at Talladega we've ever seen in NASCAR history, and to say it was chaotic was an understatement. This was by far the most chaotic moment of the 2012 chase for the Cup.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. to the bottom of the track. Jr. will win at Daytona. And the big one happens behind them.
Oh my God.
Levin gets kind of stuck in the middle there and comes across the Ford's bumper. As he does, he spins back in, gets the 3 airborne, and he just gets projected off the other cars right up into the fence.
The night that scared us all was the 2015 race at Daytona. It had been a pretty good race without any massive crashes, and the racing was phenomenal. Coming to the checkered flag, Dale Jr. would take the win in a very popular victory. But what would ensue behind him was Denny Hamlin spinning out and everybody crashing behind him after the race. It's really rare you see cars crash after the race when they cross the start-finish line, but tonight was an exception. And in this crash, Austin Dillon would go over the field and into the catch fence, coming to a dead stop, ripping the fence apart. Thankfully, Dillon was okay after this accident, but everybody held their breath for what felt like forever. But in reality, it was only 30 seconds to a minute.
Oh, he's getting them loose. He's getting them loose, and it run hard into the wall.
Caution is out.
Oh, Kenseth goes around.
Kenseth, another championship chaser. Jeff Gordon is through the grass. There's Harvick right behind Riggs.
That was an extremely hard blow. There's a rear spring bouncing across the racetrack.
It'll take a while to clean this up.
The 10 bobbled just a little bit. The 29 was coming. I don't think the 29 ever hit him, but he got close enough to him where he took the air off the spoiler, and that's all it took. Oh, Truex just gets tapped, but hangs on to it.
And Junior just misses it. There you see Kenseth around, gets tapped again. Gordon through the grass.
The high-speed, high-banked mile-and-a-half at Texas Motor Speedway produced some of the best racing we saw in the early 2000s. And what would come from that was massive accidents. When you're going fast enough, you can collect a lot of cars in wrecks. And in 2006, Scott Riggs was tagged by Kevin Harvick coming off of turn number 4 at Texas. He would collect the outside wall, and multiple cars would spin behind him after this wreck.
I think the 24 is going to get boxed right here as they try to go 3 wide. 4 wide. Stewart slid. Gordon's hard into the wall. There's Edwards. Allmendinger. Oh, no. What mess.
Gordon and Stewart, and then cars trying to sweep by on the outside. Menard, Montoya, McMurray, Harvick, or rather Boyer, all get caught up in it.
What a wadded-up mess.
The big one in Texas takes the pole sitter and the driver who's led the most laps, Gordon. And look who's left. Incredible job. Jeff Gordon led 124 laps today. He won't be there to lead the last one.
Coming off of turn number 4 at Texas Motor Speedway in 2010, Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart got together, causing a massive accident down the front stretch. Thankfully, all the drivers were okay after this massive accident, but this was a huge mess to clean up.
My rookie year, punctured a tire, sent the car hard into the wall, and I ended up with a broken leg, fractured clavicle, just numerous injuries.
He is out of the car on the stretcher. He is conscious, and they are going to load him into the ambulance.
Good move by Mike Wallace on the inside. The FTP Brake Chevrolet back up front. Mark Martin has picked up where he left off before. One car spinning. The car number 41.
Johnny Benson, as a car takes a roll as it slid backwards. Apparently the air just picked the back end of it up and around and rolling over.
Different angle again for that scary crash here in the early laps. Looking across the racetrack, you see the rear of the car starting to get off the ground. You'll get a sense of actually how high this car will lift here as it came off the ground and begins to tumble. Higher than some of the scaffolds there where our cameras are located.
What in the world happened here? I don't know. You'll see the yellow car come in there. It looks like Mark might have got in the back of the 30 car. and turned Michael sideways. I don't know.
Leading this.
Oh,
Look at Earnhardt.
Got sideways. Somebody looked like made some contact with
Uh-oh, we've got a problem.
Contact here, for sure. Darrell Waltrip and Joe Ruttman. Waltrip's car gets on his roof and over and over.
Darrell Waltrip tumbling down the backstretch in what appears to be a very, very serious crash. Joe Ruttman, the other car involved in that incident. Darrell Waltrip.
Come on, BW.
It looked like the car was going to slide through the grass there and be okay, but then I don't know if it crossed some pavement or something, it dug in.
Yes, Ned, it caught a road over there, and it just...
And when the car got slightly in the air, then it just went on over. The air got underneath it, and it began to...
Never won on a short track. As he comes out of fourth, it's a drag race. They wreck behind him. Kyle Busch will win.
Yes, sir. Checkered.
Big wreck on the front stretch. A parking lot right in front of the grandstands.
The first ever race at Martinsville under the lights saw one of the most chaotic finishes in NASCAR history. Coming to the line side by side is Kyle Busch and Martin Truex, but behind them, calamity ensues. Over 80% of the cars remaining were caught up in this crash.
It's a big push coming now for Harvick. Oh, and around goes a couple cars. Preece upside down. He's barrel rolling through the grass. Ryan Preece upside down in the infield.
Gets inside that car. It's just wild how fast that car was sideways and in position to get airborne. It's terrifying.
You said it, Jeff. As soon as the car touches the grass, something about that gap or the air or something changes, and up in the air it goes right away.
This wreck is by far one of the scariest crashes I've ever seen in my lifetime. I was very fortunate enough to not watch drivers become injured in most accidents or even killed. Thankfully, I haven't ever had to witness that. But one thing I have had to witness is some scary accidents, and Ryan Preece's genuinely scared me. Him flying down the backstretch over 200 miles per hour and then barrel rolling in the air at that height definitely scared me. Thankfully, Preece was okay after this accident, but my gosh, was that a violent accident.
Yeah, here it is. He's there on Kyle Larson. Austin Dillon bobbles just a little bit. Oh, now he's on the outside. Chastain's got him. 4 wide. Oh, they're wrecking. Unbelievable. Did the caution come out? Yes. But when Larson didn't get up in front of Chastain, that's when I think all the trouble happened. I still thought Larson was okay, Jamie, if he would have got up in front of...
One of the best races the new Generation 7 car that NASCAR introduced in 2020 ever saw was at the Coca-Cola 600. Kyle Larson got squirrely in the middle of a 4-wide situation, causing a massive crash at Charlotte Motor Speedway. This was one of the first big crashes this new car has ever seen.
Went down there, got a good shove from the 2, keeps the lead.
How about riding right in the middle now? Just waiting for whichever line. Huge push. And around goes a 2. Too big of a push. He caught the 41.
The big one.
Logano's caught up in it. Oh, my God. Denny Hamlin. Austin Dillon has damage. Daniel Suarez trying to avoid. Ty Dillon sliding in.
Ricky Stenhouse bumps Brad Keselowski in this Daytona race, causing a massive accident down the backstretch in one of the earliest parts of the race. Nobody ever expects the big one to strike early, but this time it did. Over 70% of the cars that were in this race got involved. What a massive crash entering turn 3.
7 car, Stephen Wallace in the 66, and David Stremme in another car owned by Rusty. Oh, we got a spin. It's a tap from Wallace.
Right behind you.
Oh, the big one in turn 1, heavy contact, cars in the wall, Stephen Wallace heavily damaged. There comes Kyle Krisiloff down, David Rudiman involved.
See the intensity level coming up on these guys.
We saw Mike Wallace look like he was going below David Rudiman right here, but they ran up on a slower car. Wow.
Right. Man.
That's Kevin LePage's 61 that Carl Edwards went up across the back of.
Kevin LePage causes a massive accident after pushing the entire field up the track as he merged back up on the track after making a pit stop. Usually what you would want to do is to merge back up on the track after all the leaders have passed by. But Kevin LePage must have looked at his mirror and just decided to pull up on the track without any regard for him or his other's safety.
They're trouble, turn one, hard, a car in the wall, and spinning down to the bottom. There's going to be 10 or more cars involved. Johnny Benson.
I'm not so sure that Mark Martin in the 12 car didn't make some contact.
Darrell, I believe the 12 car, Ryan Newman, looks like he was out of shape, maybe starting to get loose by himself.
And Newman almost flipped over.
Remember, he had that hard crash at Daytona where he got on his roof at back in February.
Ryan Newman and restrictor plates just do not mix well. He seems to always come up on the short end of the stick, and in Talladega in 2003, after he previously flipped over at Daytona, he was flipping again. At this time, it was in the middle of turns 1 and 2 on the banking. That is something you don't really see that often. Ryan Newman would flip violently over a few cars and come to rest in the middle of turns 1 and 2 after collecting over half of the remaining field at Talladega.
Trouble, big crash. Danica Patrick and Joey Logano and Eric Almirola.
Holy smoly. Heavy damage there on Danica.
Patrick went for a wild ride and then got pounded again by Almirola.
Half a lap to go. Here comes Stewart in the 33 as Logano goes to the point. 3 wide in turn 4. A squeeze to the outside wall. Trouble in the corner. Hard, vicious crash. Who gets through to win the race? Caution flag has just been called. The race leader is James Butcher in the 30 car. Unbelievable.
We saw this happen with Jason Leffler's car the other day, get thrown back, and Jeff Gordon wide open, nowhere to go. It's good to see those guys get out of the car.
Joey Logano just missing the inside of the 77 car when he came by.
Right along with Jeff Gordon here. Be ready, folks. This is hard. Ooh. Here's Sam Hornish racing with Casey Kane as they come out of the corner. Oh, looks like Casey got loose and tried to correct it. Got into Sam, and goodness gracious, what
Just
as we saw the other day. Wow, huge lick by Jeff Gordon. It's good to see him get out of his car. And Sam Hornish. Both of those cars hit extremely hard on that second impact.
Gordon head on into the Armco barrier.
At Watkins Glen in 2009, Sam Hornish Jr. was battling the number 9 car of Casey Kane out of the carousel. Hornish's car would get loose and go into the grass and go straight to the tire barriers. It would spin back across the racetrack, and Jeff Gordon would T-bone him head on. Gordon's car would be destroyed after this accident, and this had to be one of the biggest hits we've ever seen at Watkins Glen. Thankfully, both of these drivers were okay, but this was by far one of the biggest hits we've ever seen in the short chute.
Chastain. Push comes to shove, and Gragson's in the wall. Larson's around, and Larson up the racetrack in traffic, and he collects Preece.
Hard hit.
Good grief.
Saw that. He got to pushing him hard. Chastain was pushing Noah very hard, but wasn't patient. Was ready to go right off the bat. Turns him around right into the fence, right in front of everybody. Tony, hard hit on your car right there. Very hard hit for Preece. Got on the side of the 10 car too. I don't think there's much damage there. Well, you see a big push out of the 5 into the 1. That got Noah sideways, got him up the track a little bit. Chastain saw the window, wasn't much of a door, and he tried to take it. Wrecked him.
Oh, Larson slid up the racetrack, and Preece coming at full speed.
That's a bummer for Noah. Have that opportunity there. Didn't even get a chance to really make much of it.
Well, just had a little too much movement when he got pushed, and it unfortunately got him to the outside and opened that door. That is a huge hit.
Let's ride with Noah Gragson.
Oh, that's a heavy hit.
Right rear, right into the wall, head on like that. Doesn't get any harder, Kevin.
That is one of the hardest hits that you can take in a race car when you get turned in the middle of the straightaway, right front into the wall. And it is so violent. And I'm so happy to see him put that window net down quick. I know the car was on fire and he was in a hurry, but you could hear it in his voice how bad it hurt. And you're going to see him shoot up right here.
Yeah. You hear him go back to the gas, saving grace.
Sanchez will try to work both. Oh, trouble. And there's a crash. Caution is out. The race is over. Trucks up in the air. Nick Sanchez leading when the caution flag came out.
Was that?
Good job, boys.
He is going to bring it back around.
Here. Raja gets into Jack Wood, turns him around. Watch the 17. Just contact from Daniel Dye, turns him over.
Bailey Curry in the middle of that mess. Matt Crafton sliding along. He keeps his truck pointed in the right direction. Look at Matt storm out of there.
Let's ride with Daniel Dye,
our Fox In Race reporter
and cameraman.
Unbelievable impact.
Daniel had no idea there was going to be a truck right in front of him when he went down that straightaway. That is scary looking.
It's just amazing.
But like you said, that's about as soft as you can turn one over.
That's exactly right. And it didn't just keep tumbling either, like we've seen happen so many times. I don't know if Raja just lost the front end of his number 71 Chevy or what went down there, but he definitely went up the track and made contact.
It would probably shock you if I said this wasn't the first time this happened, but it was. This was the second time this has ever happened, and Taylor Gray was the victim of barrel rolling down the backstretch in the first race of the season at Daytona in the Truck Series on top of other trucks on the final lap. Yes, this happened before, and it was Matt Crafton, but Taylor Gray was the newest victim of barrel rolling down the backstretch. Taylor Gray would get hooked by Rajah Caruth on the final lap of the Daytona night race and get sent over multiple trucks.
Now Logano the outside. They can't get around.
Oh! Keselowski gets turned by William Byron. Blaney gets caught up. Gilliland, Truex, Hamlin, and more.
All those Fords were struggling to get around Chastain. Who could get around and get that clean air track position first? That's what happened.
This crash would ultimately take out almost all the great contenders in the 2024 Daytona 500. William Byron would get a very awkward push from Alex Bowman, sending his car swirling up the middle and collecting Brad Keselowski. Keselowski's car would send it right back up the racetrack in Logano, collecting the rest of the field behind him. So many cars were tore up in this accident and took out so many great contenders. Ultimately, this crash was the deciding moment of the Daytona 500 because, in my opinion, there were so many cars that were caught up in this accident that could have won this race. But ultimately, it was the guy who caused the crash and the guy who ended up in the crash. William Byron and Alex Bowman finished 1-2 on the Daytona 500 that year.
Okay, now these guys, their job, if you're Austin Dillon, one of those guys.
Watch this run Kevin Harvick has on the bottom.
Now the box can go to the outside. They're all trying to build that run that Keselowski did.
Here goes the 3 car.
Will Dillon have help? No, they come down to block. Logano goes back up. Keselowski with him. McDowell in tow. Dillon on the bottom.
The run's on top. Oh! Teammates.
Around they go in a hard crash. Kyle Busch.
Larson.
Caution is out.
Bubba Wallace is in this. Austin Cindric. Hard hit by Kyle Busch. Caution's out.
McDowell is first to the line, but will have to go back to the moment of caution, which ends the race. Brad Keselowski is climbing out. He's okay. Joey Logano we see taking off the gloves and the steering wheel.
I think McDowell's the winner of this race, guys.
He was first across the line. NASCAR will review and have to determine the finish at the moment of caution. official word.
Huge win if that's the case.
But Bob Jenkins' Front Row Motorsports crew is celebrating on pit road.
Oh, wouldn't that be incredible? You're going to see some emotion out of this guy if this comes back official.
A lot of tore up race cars.
All the Chevys torn up. You saw Preece with damage, Chase Elliott with damage.
This was a really hard hit. Kyle Busch, when he came in.
Yes. Michael McDowell from Glendale, Arizona, for Bob Jenkins Front Row Motorsports, has won the Daytona 500.
How about that?
Man.
That's a huge win for Michael McDowell and that team. Doesn't get any bigger than this.
And a huge crash for everybody else.
I will again say I feel bad for Brad Keselowski. This is his third time in this video coming so close to being able to take the lead or the win in the Great American Race and getting crashed out. He had position on teammate Joey Logano up until he was being pushed by Michael McDowell, who sent him into Logano and causing a massive crash that would create a big fireball in turn 30, collecting Kyle Busch, Bubba Wallace, and many others. McDowell was able to take home the victory this very night, and it was on Valentine's Day in the Loves Ford. But there was no love in the Penske camp, as Brad Keselowski was furious with Joey Logano after this race. Ryan Newman and Daytona just don't mix. Ryan Newman does have one Daytona 500, but besides that, he's been caught up in many accidents. And in 2003, he had one of the most violent barrel rolls down the front stretch, having the entire rear axle come apart from his race car as he was flipping. Grass was flying everywhere and parts and pieces were flying everywhere, and this was definitely the highlight of the 2003 Daytona 500.